The NHL, it's suspended Filip Forsberg 3 games for interference, and it looks bad. It does, and I'm going to link in the description underneath what happened, because again, copyrights, I can't show it. But Forsberg, not really known as a dirty player, and he's just come back, and for Nashville, this means 3 games without arguably their best offensive player. Um, it's going to hurt them and whatnot. I'm fine with it. The only thing that kind of gets me is I remember after the game last night, they were talking about this hit. And actually, it was during the game. They talked about the hit by Forsberg and how Vesey got hurt and he didn't come back. But they talked about how they didn't feel like Forsberg had enough time to stop. Now, again, this is just commentators talking, okay? And I'm not having that opinion myself. But the interesting thing was they said, well, they could kind of forgive that. There was a hit thrown by Alexei Emelin in this same game that they felt did warrant a suspension. And I've heard nothing about it today. Where Emelin left his feet to deliver a hit. So, the NHL, bless their hearts, their safety seems to be waking up now in the second half of the season. We're starting to see suspensions here. There was a suspension on, I believe, it was Johan Larsson a couple days ago. I didn't do a video on it because I felt 2 games. Larsson's not as big a player as others in name and in stature, and it won't affect the team as much. This one does affect Nashville, and I find it kind of odd because of the Emelin hit that was in the same game. So, my question would be this. If you saw the game, okay, so if you were watching the Nashville and the Rangers game last night, which hit to you was worse? Because to me, having seen both, I thought the Emelin hit was worse. The commentators seem to feel the Emelin hit was worse. That Emelin would probably hear from player safety today. Emelin has a history. And of course, by mentioning the name Alexei Emelin, there will be numerous comments below about how people feel about Alexei Emelin and questioning whether or not his parents were married when he was born. That's not the point. He's a decent 5'6" blue liner, and he skirts that line. And if he crossed it, should he not have been suspended? Or here's a question for you too. NHL player safety, if there's 2 egregious issues in one game from 2 different players, would they have the guts to suspend 2 guys from the same team? Right now in this current environment that we find ourselves, would the NHL actually suspend 2 players from the same team for multiple games, for incidents to take place that night? I mean, I could see it in a brawl. I could see a brawl where you'd see multiple guys getting suspended. But in this case, where it's 2 completely separate incidents, isolated and on their own, I mean, as a Rangers fan, you got to be mad because there's 2 guys who get hurt in the same game from questionable hits. Now, and again, I'm not saying Forsberg necessarily had time to stop. You guys can debate that in the comment section below. But for me, it is kind of weird that Emelin isn't being mentioned at all, due to the fact that everybody on that panel said the same thing. The Emelin hit looked worse. So again, if you watch the game, let me know what you think about it. Should Emelin have got a call from the NHL safety as well, or did they get this one right? Or should Forsberg have got a warning or a fine? I think my biggest issue with this is when I see one guy get a fine and another guy get a suspension, and I look at the play and I'm like, okay, they both should have got suspended, or they both should have got fines. So again, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. One other thing I do want to mention, because I get asked this when I do these videos. Do I think a suspension should last as long as a guy's injured? No. Here's why. A dirty hit may result in no injury, and it may result in an injury that lasts 2 months. So it would be very, very difficult to enforce that. It would be very difficult. And it would be very difficult to watch as a guy, steamrolls somebody illegally. But the guy who takes the hit thankfully isn't hurt, and say, well, yeah, he steamrolled him, but since there was no injury, there's no suspension. And then another incident where maybe it's a knee on knee, maybe it's incidental contact, but is it dirty? Maybe. Okay, well, now he's got a 10-game suspension because that guy's out with knee problems. So that's why I don't favor that, but you guys can let me know what you think about that in the comment section as well. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and hey, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.